Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahey, here with my co-host, Matty B. And the NFL Draft has come and gone with, I would say, a decent amount of drama. Most of it is with Shedeur Sanders, if we're being honest. Because he was rated as like one of the top quarterbacks, if not the top quarterback. And I don't want to just spend time talking on him, because I want to compare him to Quinn Ewers, Texas quarterback. Last year, if Quinn Ewers would have came out, I don't know if he was eligible last year or if he had to come back, because there were rumors that he could come back to Texas, he could transfer, but he had that 1 year at Ohio State, remember? So I couldn't remember if he was draft eligible last year. If he would have came out, he 100% would have been drafted. Last year was a heavy draft quarterback class, which is why I thought he came back when he didn't have to. And then this year, he fell so far, I think the Dolphins got him, that I was so surprised at the number of quarterbacks and the type of quarterbacks that were picked before him, because just like Shedeur Sanders, based on my film review, personally, I've seen both of them throw perfect strikes on a deep ball that a lot of guys that get drafted or struggle in the NFL, they can't hit. And you know they're not going to hit it because they never hit it in college. And I was talking to Matt before the show, and I think he said that like Quinn Ewers' measurable is very similar to Josh Allen. And he made the same.
That was Will Howard.
Oh, was Will Howard? No, I was thinking of Quinn Ewers. Because Quinn Ewers, his throwing deep is the one thing that I don't think a lot of other quarterbacks have. Like, that's like the mark on them. Like, can you throw it deep? I don't know. He threw it deep all the time. Like, he had, the guy the Packers drafted this year. Last year, he had Worthy, right? He's had burners every year where he's had to throw deep. Shedeur Sanders, a lot of his highlights were him, like, scrambling around for a bit. But then he's throwing deep. And to me, I'd rather have a quarterback that has highlights similar to Patrick Mahomes like that. Because at one point in the draft, ESPN showed, I think it was during Mel Kiper's rant that we talked about, where they showed Mahomes like scrambling around, very similar to Shedeur Sanders. And he was saying like how the NFL teams, like they're looking at like the measurables or whatever, the personality, and not the in-game type decisions and how you can throw it accurately on the run. And I agree with them. At that point in the draft, when he fell to day 3, I thought it was absurd. Because every year someone's getting drafted. I mean, what about the guys that are getting pulled over for driving like 100 miles an hour, right? Shedeur Sanders isn't getting in off the field issues, right? So for all the stuff that people... Go ahead.
Hold on a sec, because I think there's a way to go about this process. And the biggest comparison was the Eli Manning situation, where Archie Manning said, well, there are certain teams that if he gets drafted, we're not going. And saying, well, it was okay when Archie Manning, and I remember me and you talking about that at the time, and I was like, I thought that was so wrong and disrespectful back when that situation was happening, because I just feel like, who are you to determine what team you go to or you don't go to? And I think when you look at specifically the approach that Shedeur Sanders took, he opted out of a lot of the drills at the combine. He opted out of some of the Senior Bowl, All-Star game type things that are going to give him exposure. That if an NFL franchise is having questions about the transition from the college game to a pro style scheme, like, there was an opportunity there for him to play in front of those coaches, those evaluators. He chose not to. And for some people, that's a gamble that you can pull off and it works. It didn't pan out for him. I mean, it was a lesson learned. When you're looking at some of the interviews, like there was one that was circulating where it was an unnamed NFL executive said it was one of the worst interviews that they had just because of his approach to it. And I think going in, if everything has been speculated that you're a top 2, top 3 pick, I think he almost went into the draft with the same attitude that Dion did. The only difference is there was a really strong competitor in Cam Ward that when you're looking 1A, 1B, like, I think their styles were similar, but at the end of the day, like, I think a lot of the NFL franchises just thought, I don't know that I want to deal with the headache. And if this is how he's going to act during the evaluation process, what's going to happen when he has more money, more exposure, more NFL-related financial contracts and opportunities? Like, it's only going to snowball worse. Now, I think it hit the threshold where you start to look at this evaluation, you go, okay, at what point does it not hurt? The late round where Cleveland came up, and you look at the video from the Browns, it definitely looks like the owner stepped in and just said, "This is who we're taking." Because they'd already drafted the Oregon quarterback round prior, and then they hop back in to pick Sanders up later. And like you see, they showed the board, and everyone was just kind of like, "Yeah, we got our guy," but like there wasn't like an enthusiasm to it. Like, hey, we're building here. It was like our owner said, "This is who we're taking," and we don't have a say so. Like there was no emotional response to it.
And those like taking 2 quarterbacks that are kind of different like that, I think is an awful move. It's not like you liked it.
It recently worked.
With who though?
RG3 got drafted early, and then who was the late round quarterback?
For the Redskins?
Yep.
I don't know. Who would it have been?
Michigan State.
Kirk Cousins?
Yep.
Has it worked, though? What did he do?
Signed a bazillion-dollar contract.
Yeah, but has he even won any playoff games?
He's still playing in the league, bro.
That's like a Michigan State move, bro. Not winning the playoff game, just being there. Winning.
Getting a big chain, drinking beers on the flight home.
Well, Kirk Cousins is more of a pro quarterback. I mean, I guess if you're saying that Sanders would be that guy, the one that's going to end up working out, then I'd agree with you.
And this is where I think with the quarterback evaluation, we talk about this all the time. And the quarterback that I think of with this is Mitch Trubisky. Like back when Trubisky was drafted by the Bears, we talked and I said, it's a logical pick if the Bears match the scheme to what he showed that he was comfortable with and capable of doing at UNC. They never did it. And
I said that was an awful pick, dude. He stunk.
But I said, and I agreed, but I said, this is within this context. Here's how you set him up for success. And I think with Shedeur, it's the same thing. From Jackson State to Colorado, he was running an RPO heavy scheme. I think if they can tailor that or incorporate that more with a package for him, he could be really successful. Now, if you're Cleveland, what do you do with your quarterback room now? Because you drafted 2 quarterbacks. Plus you have Watson, plus you have Joe Flacco, plus you have Kenny Pickett. Right? Who's the odd man out of that scenario?
Well, yeah, them drafting 2 guys, they're not taking them all to camp or to the season or whatever. That's why I'm like, I know that the owner stepped in, or at least that's how it seemed, but they were saying that the reason he stepped in is they didn't want Philly getting him. Which, could you imagine if Philly had Hurts and then Sanders waiting in the wings, learning like a franchise had been winning?
That would make sense because that would be a scenario like that would set him up for success because they would have that tailored to what he's capable of.
Now, granted,
the real loser in all this though is Shiloh.
See,
the defensive back. Because Dion was like, he was going on a rave, and everyone was saying about Shedeur, but it was like, He has two sons that are draft eligible, and one was just not even talked about.
Did he get drafted?
He went undrafted and got signed by Tampa Bay. But you're right. Your question answers exactly where we're at. It's like, he had two sons that...
I didn't know they were both draft eligible, to be honest. I thought Shiloh was next year. Or was last year.
Nope.
Were they twins?
I don't know all the family genealogy.
It's a Irish twin thing? Like, I don't know. You're a Florida State guy. Don't you know?
He's not a Florida State guy, though.
Yeah, but Dion was. You should have been trying to get them as legacy recruits. Don't you go on Florida State Twitter and just tweet at recruits all day?
He's not Florida State alumni. He doesn't claim Florida State.
Hey, he played.
Ask him.
I don't think you would answer my call.
He occupied some field space.
I did see where he said about how he came in the league because everyone I knew as growing up, all our uncles and stuff would talk about how he wouldn't tackle. And he said he came in and he was like supposedly a hard hitter at Florida State, and he did it in the NFL and kind of got wrong. And the guy he played with or something, I don't know if it was a coach or a player, he said, dude, if you hit like that, you're going to have a 4-year career. You better lighten it up if you want to stretch that to 10. And then that's when it clicked to him, like, you know what? I guess I don't want to be knocked out. But you brought up about, like, guys falling and for not playing, and I want to bring up, because Will Johnson from Michigan was the other one. Like, I brought up Quinn Ewers last year. If he would have went pro, Will Johnson, I know he couldn't last year. Michigan wins the national championship. He has a key interception right after halftime when Washington could have cut the lead. That kind of pretty much sealed it before the other interception late. But, like, Will Johnson would have been the number one cornerback taken if Travis Hunter wasn't there, right? Because you don't know how they're playing Travis Hunter. And then the season for him was a disaster. Like, I know Michigan started to, and I hate talking trash on, like, one of our guys, but if you watched Michigan play this year, I brought it up during the season. Will Johnson, I know it was a new scheme. He did not play well when he played. I know he had a pick six, at least one, maybe two, but they were picking on him, and it seemed almost like he was mailing it in. And then he had mysterious injuries where it was like, oh, yeah, I can't play because I'm dinged up. And that 100% cost him during the draft. Because the same things you brought up with Sanders, like Will Johnson wouldn't run a 40 time. They were like, he had turf toe, and then he had an ankle problem, I think, or a shoulder, something. It was something unrelated. And then they said, well, he might have like a degenerative knee issue now. And I thought, if he had that would have been talked about. Remember when Michigan's defensive tackle had that heart defect that dropped him from the first to like the fifth for the Raiders? That would have been talked about before the draft. Everyone would have known he had the knee issue. He would have came out and said it. And if it did, and he was trying to keep it a secret, like, horrible PR job from him. Because what I've seen now is that, they were scared off because he might only have a 10-year NFL career. And that's why I brought up the Dion thing. 10 years for a defensive back is a hell of a long time. It wasn't the knee injury that scared him off, right? If you're going to tell a guy, hey, we got a 10-year guy, the doctor said he's going to have 10 great years, and he's your first-round guy, you're taking that 100% of the time, especially for a cornerback. But when you don't play, and then you're doing NIL stuff, he sold like the glasses, which are funny. I told you they sold out. I was going to get you a pair. And then, like, in the middle, like, random in the season, he's not even playing. And then when he doesn't play, Michigan defense looks awesome without him. Beats Ohio State, beats Alabama. It's hard to say, hey, that was me, when you're not playing. And then you have the other guys, Kenneth Grant, what was he taken 13th by the Dolphins, and Mason Graham taken 5th overall. They were playing. So you can't say, hey, wow, I wish my teammates, like, I either you're dinged up, you're injured, but either way, now NFLs are going to be scared off of you because you're either injured, or you should just flat out say, what was the Ohio State guy? Was it Bosa? The 1 year is like, I'm just done. I don't want to get more hurt. I'm just going to do for the NFL. And I think if Will Johnson would have said that instead of saying, like, I'm almost back, it reminded me very much of Christian McCaffrey. Like, I'm almost back. If Michigan was winning, I would be back. But they're not, so I'm not going to play. And I think the NFL, they're going to kind of say that because They said, like, he's going to get drafted because, like, for his own scheme, even if he didn't run the 40 and he was slow, like, they said he was a perfect fit for, like, 3 different schemes. And the fact that they're passing on him is just, like, bewilderment. Because he could, he locked down the top Ohio State and Washington cornerbacks or wide receivers. No one else is doing that. Like, who's breaking down Marvin Harrison Jr.? Like, his interception last year against Marvin Harrison Jr., where he undercut his slant route, single-handedly won the game. Michigan won by, 6? If he makes that pick that I think led to a touchdown or whatever, at least stopped the drive, in the red zone, like, it instantly put Michigan on, like, the 7-yard line, and I'm pretty sure they scored a touchdown. That was the 100% difference in the game. If he doesn't make that and shut Marvin Harrison down, Michigan doesn't win the national championship. So, like, no other player can point it out and say, hey, these are the guys I've shut down. Marvin Harrison Jr., so-and-so from Ohio State. Oh, Adunze. Yeah, he did a great game against me. Oh, wait, no, he didn't. Oh, he was drafted high too, right? Like, I'm surprised Will Johnson wasn't out there on the, like, attack. He, like, had no PR. And that's where I think some of these guys that, I don't know who they're getting advice from or who's in their corner, but the PR side is horrible for a lot of these guys coming out and, like, just doing bad decisions. Sanders, just show some humility. Get drafted in the first or second round and then prove everyone wrong. Now it's like almost an embarrassment. Like, people don't even want to see him play.
Well, it's like he's put a lot of people in a tough spot, because then they started to make the allegations that the league is out to blackball him specifically and turn it almost into a Kaepernick type ordeal. And I don't think that that's necessarily the case, because when you look at the NFL, it's such a money first driven league that they've taken flyers on all kinds of guys with criminal background and criminal history, that they take flyers on guys. But you're not using a first round pick typically on a guy with a lot of background things unless you feel like you can put the extra supports in place. Like, he had none of the background. The only real knock that I saw was that they didn't win a lot of games. Like, he was a 500 quarterback. They tried to say, well, Baker Mayfield, he was acting like an idiot all those times at Oklahoma. It's like, he won a pile of games and a Heisman. It was like, you can't be 500 in the Big 12 and blow the doors off. Like, it just doesn't work like that.
See, I think that's a bad knock, though, because, like, that Colorado team is awful. And the fact that they were one game away from the playoffs this year, I think it's a big one.
Like, that was part of the issue, is that, like, they were so overly hyped 2 years ago when Deion brought it.
What about Jaden Daniels, dude?
And Shedeur and all those guys that said, we're going to be a playoff team, and then they came back and they said, well, the line stunk, so we're going into the portal and we're bringing all the top talent out here. Like, he's selling a vision to Colorado, but, like, it's so over the top that it doesn't match with what the reality is that Colorado has been in the toilet for a long time, and you're not just going to wave a magic wand with 2 players and pull them out.
Yeah, but look at Jaden Daniels wasn't a winner. Like, what did he beat Bama? That was it? Like, didn't Florida State beat him twice? Once? Yeah. Like, I don't know how many times he was there.
Twice.
So, like, that's the same thing. With Sanders, like, he came in. If you go back, because a lot of people like to forget, go back and read that first season prediction. They were talking about them winning, like, no big games. And they went out and beat, like, what, Nebraska or someone to start off the year? And then they started hot. And then, of course, when depth kicks in, they just didn't have it. So them hitting the portal and being close this year, I think that they would like to have the end of what I think it was BYU. I could be misremembering. But the one game that really would have put them in the driver's seat for the playoffs late in the year, they just couldn't get it done. Like, they didn't have enough on defense. And I don't think that's anything against Shedeur. Like, I would say the same thing as Daniels. Like, if your offense is putting up the production, it's hard to build a program from nothing. With the portal, it is a lot faster. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if this year, now it might be a drop because you're looking at Colorado and thinking how much of that was Hunter and Sanders, like their production. Can Dion fill it in with another quarterback? We have yet to see him coach with anyone else, right?
Yeah.
I mean, at a high level. So can they win without those guys? I wouldn't be surprised if Colorado won the Big 12 this year. I think a lot of people would be shocked, but that would be what, year 3 of Dion? Now I know they have a new quarterback coming in, so if he's playing his cards right, technically next year should be the year he'd have a quarterback start this year, coach him up, win a bunch of games, win like 8 or 9 games, 10 games. What did they even win this year? I don't remember if it was 9 or something. And then next year would be the year you have the guy come back, and that's their run for like a deep playoff run. And if you can't build it up, like if it's a complete nosedive, like so far it's been getting better every year under him. So there's no reason to think that. I think that's where people don't separate. They hate Dion, so of course they hate his son, which is just unfortunate. Because I don't think he's bad at quarterback. I don't know if he's going to be great. But there are a lot of guys in the NFL that your quarterback in, like the Cowboys, they're going with Dak. It would have been a perfect scenario for them to take Dion's son, Shedeur, and have him as the backup. Their backup's Cooper Rush or whatever. He's not winning anything. I'm telling you that right now. Like that, you know what you got with him. Like I could see the Steelers not really taking him. I honestly wondered if the Steelers were going to take him at that point. They got Will Howard. There's no way Will Howard's better than Sanders. There's absolutely no way.
There is.
Dude, there's no way. He was on a loaded Ohio State team. He scored 10 points against Michigan.
How relevant was Kansas State, though?
They're playing in the Big 12, the same garbage conference you just said Shedeur was tearing up. And Kansas State.
No. That was the issue. He wasn't tearing up the Big 12. He was middle of the road. No, Shedeur. Like that.
Howard wasn't tearing him up either. Howard had like a 47% accuracy in the Big 12?
Well, he had a 70% accuracy in the Big 10, so what the hell difference is that?
Yeah, that's because Ohio State is loaded. I could have 70% accuracy there. I could throw up the Jeremiah Smith and they're dinking and dunking with Ryan Day. I heard someone bring that up when they drafted Will Howard.
They said that with Shedeur too, that his accuracy so high. I was like, he's throwing to Travis Hunter. Like, I'm pretty sure I could throw 70% thrown to a guy that can catch literally everything in his radius.
Yeah,
like, that's like when Larry Fitzgerald was there. I could have been the quarterback to Larry Fitzgerald, just chuck it up there and let him go jump over everyone.
Yeah, what about the big games? That's what I was saying. Like, unfortunately for Will Howard, the only like top defense that he played was Michigan and Penn State once, right? And Penn State wasn't pretty. Well, they scored 13 in that game. Oregon didn't have like a great defense. I don't care what anyone says. So like Michigan was a complete bust. He had an awful game. If he had any production in that game, Ohio State easily wins, and all of their demons are gone. Instead, they're like in a weird pseudo, like they hate the national championship because they don't know if Ryan Day can beat Michigan. And a lot of other fans like don't understand it. Like, they just don't get it. Like other friends, I was joking about the gold pants, how he finally got his gold pants, him and Jack Sawyer getting drafted by the Steelers. But I know that eats up Ohio State fans. If I make a comment about that, they don't care if they won the national championship because they haven't won the Big Ten in 5 years or whatever many years. They haven't beat Michigan in the same amount of time. So that's a nightmare scenario for them. Will Howard. I don't know how fondly they're going to look back on him. Right? It's kind of like the Ravens. We always talk about Trent Dilfer. No one's pumped about the Trent Dilfer performance. Like, he's brought up for a reason. And that's where I think Will Howard's going to be. And again, Stroud might be the only quarterback that Ohio State's put in that has production in the NFL. I know Will Howard was a transfer. Man, I honestly don't know why anyone would take Will Howard over Quinn Ewers. There'd be absolutely if I was a quarter or GM.
Well, with Ewers, the issue, I think he falls because you can objectively say he hasn't shown that he can stay healthy. He's had some type of injury the last 2 years that is a logical. He fell because of that.
But he's played through it though.
When you were playing and acting as over the top as what Shedeur has, it follows that similar pattern of like why Baker got run out of Cleveland, why Johnny Manziel got run out. Like, you can be this flashy, cocky, over the top quarterback, but you better back it up. And in the NFL, it's a lot harder to do that. You're better off being more modest and just playing hard. And when you don't have anything to go off of, like if Tom Brady comes out and like is talking reckless, like he has the Super Bowls and the clout to go along with it. Like, to come in as a rookie with no meaningful wins, like, what are you doing?
I get it, dude. You hate Shedeur Sanders. You not buying his Browns jersey?
No, I just don't think that he's as hyped as what people made it out to be. Like, it's not like it was Dan Marino coming out and he's falling to the end of the draft.
See, but there's their thing. So last year, I'm looking it up, they were 4-7. This year they jumped to 9-4. That's a huge jump for a team that doesn't have depth or like all around talent. And he showed up in big games. That's why I think a lot of people, they're just looking at it at one point and wondering like, oh, well, like what's going to happen? Oh, they beat TCU. That was the big one to start the year. They beat Nebraska, Colorado State, and then they got into a run where they were playing ranked teams. They almost upset USC that first year. I remember that game. And then, of course, like they played, like he was losing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those, like what did I say, 7 losses were to ranked opponents. I had a Colorado team that was untalented. Like, I don't want to say untalented, but like under talented compared to what they were playing. And then here you have this year, they lost to Nebraska. That was a bad one. And they lost to Kansas State. Kansas was the one that I'm thinking of. I thought it was BYU. They lost to BYU at the end. But I actually think it was Kansas first, where if they would have beat Kansas, they would have been in the driver's seat and would have been able to seal that championship. When they lost to BYU, I think they would have had to have help that wouldn't have happened anyway. But I think if they would have beat Kansas, then they would have been in. Now, this year, they didn't play the same amount of ranked teams. So that's the one thing that you can point out. Well, the first year, everyone they were playing was ranked. This year, they really didn't play anyone ranked. And maybe that's why. Because they ended up playing, BYU in the bowl game? That's kind of dumb. Like, that's ridiculous. That was the one where they got killed, right? Because that would have been the pseudo Big 12 championship. We had like what? BYU and them, that would have been the play-in game 4, but they ended up both losing, like for the playoffs, and it ended up being what team? What team even didn't get? Oh, it was Arizona State, right? It was Scatterbo.
Yeah. Which
I was hoping the Steelers would get. I didn't mind the Johnson pick from Iowa. I mean, the Steelers drafted 2 guys from Iowa, 2 guys from Ohio State. I was like, what is this, 2002? Like, what's going on here? But I mean, it was a safe draft, and it was one that I told you, now we just got to wait. We're recording this early, so by the time this comes out, we'll know about probably Aaron Rodgers. But I thought for sure that the Steelers would have locked him in. Drafting Will Howard kind of just told Aaron Rodgers that, yo, this position's yours. Maybe you have Will Howard learn under him, and he kind of already knows how to win at Ohio State now, kind of. I mean, they didn't get enough goals, so I don't know.
But I don't think that you're bringing Rodgers in to be a mentor. Like, Rodgers is pretty adamant that he's like, yeah, I'm not helping anyone else.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They get Howard that's kind of already, he wasn't a mentor. He didn't need mentored, being like a transfer. and coming into like a talented group. So I think just having him come in and take over after what they had McCord, like I think that's the kind of like why they drafted him. It was kind of like this guy could probably try his best after Aaron Rodgers, and we'll see what we get with him. I just don't know. Like out of all the guys I've seen at quarterback at Ohio State, McCord seemed to be the guy that could be successful. I didn't even realize he led the league in passing last year, I think they said. Unless they just meant the ACC, but I thought they made it sound like he led the entire NCAA in passing. So like him going to, would he end up with the Eagles? Like that's the one thing. It's like, all right, when teams are on, like it seems like the Eagles and the Lions and the Chiefs, like they're drafting well right now, those three teams. When they're picking up guys that I'm high on, then I'm kind of like, I get that reinforcement of like, all right, that's good. Steelers haven't been drafting well. So like when they draft guys and I'm like, ooh, that stinks. Like the Panthers. Panthers draft awful. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like a horrible draft. And everyone down here is like trying to like stay positive, and you're just feeling sad for them. Like, oh, okay. That's who they're taking? Okay, interesting pick. I guess it's not going to go well for them. But maybe I'm wrong. I mean, a lot of guys that end up hitting it big are guys that I don't think will. So, like, even the Packers getting 2 wide receivers early, I thought, man, that's not going to happen. I think I talked about the show last week. I knew the Steelers were going to go D-line because I think TJ Watt wants out. And even if they don't go the Manning route, which that's the one thing, like, I bring up the Quinn Ewers thing again. If he's so average and mid, how is Arch Manning not beating him out? Like, that's the one thing. Like, Arch Manning's going to be awesome. All I hear about is how Arch Manning's going to be the best. It's like, you're also, in the same breath, you're telling me Quinn Ewers doesn't have an arm to hit Xavier Worthy down the field when I know it. I've seen him do that. But yet, I mean, yeah, he had an oblique injury. Does the oblique injury or tear or whatever he had, like, is that going to affect his arm strength? Maybe. He's not super big, but he was like the number 1 quarterback recruit that one year. I know that doesn't really mean everything, but we'll see. Tua's always injured. Like, we're going to see Ewers play this year. That's why I think it's funny if that's the knock on him. Like, oh, he's always injured. It's like, oh, so is their other quarterback. They got a type they go for down there in Florida. I mean, I'm trying to think of what other draft picks that struck me as odd. But I don't know. I hate talking trash on some of the kids. There's like the one guy got drafted, and they're like, he has a family and 2 kids, and I'm thinking, how old is this guy? Like 5.
Well, I always laugh because it's like there's all these experts, and it's like, how do you let a quarterback like Mahomes fall in the draft? How do you let Tom Brady wait until the 6th round to get drafted? Like, because it's not an exact science, and there's a lot of chips that need to like fall exactly the right way. Because I mean, let's face it, when Brady got picked, Bledsoe was already the quarterback there in New England. That if he doesn't get his heart exploded, running out of bounds, like Brady may never have an opportunity to step in and quarterback in New England.
And that's the same debate like that they had about, like, I'm talking right now with like Ewers over Arch Manning. Like, Arch Manning couldn't beat him. They said about like how Brady couldn't beat Drew Henson out, right? So that's why I'm saying like maybe Manning is the pick. Doesn't matter who's ahead of you, and that's why you end up falling. But you got to play it on the field. Sometimes I think guys get a chip on their shoulder where if you come in and you're being told you're the guy, we're so excited to have you here, you're not going to work as hard as a guy that they're telling like, hey, we're planning on cutting you probably. Here's $50 and a coupon for this steakhouse down the road. Oh, yeah, wear a nice suit. Like the one guy they were surprised, I think the Packers drafted him. He was just at the draft as like a fan, and they were like, hey, they said he's here. And they like brought him up. And it's like, how many other players could do that? Some players don't even show up because they're embarrassed, right? Or like they're there at the draft. Like I don't even know if Will Howard was there. Will Johnson was there. I thought they said he might have been. And it's like awful advice if you are, dude. And you know that like you haven't been doing good on interviews and you're not participating in the combine or the Senior Bowl or whatever. Like you can't opt out of everything. and then get toasted in the UNLV game and finally get a pick six to like save the game when they've been picking on you the whole game because you haven't looked good. That's what the NFL teams are watching. They're not watching the highlights they put together. And it's also the reason why I like watching like the college broadcast. I think that's the one they finally put on ABC now because they actually know the players. Like me and you watch a lot of college. I know most of the players that are getting drafted. You watch the NFL once, and they make jokes like, look at that fan. He has no idea who they're drafting. Like he hasn't watched one Arizona State game like all year. He doesn't even know who Shedeur is. He probably didn't watch the playoffs, right? or like whatever team they're picking out, like the Iowa running back. We know him. He's been very productive for him. I think he was there when Michigan played him in the Big Ten championship, maybe. So like you have a guy like that Steelers draft. We know who he is. Most Steelers fans probably have no idea. And so, like, when you're watching just like the NFL type broadcast, they're like just reading stats. And it's like, yeah, these guys, they're projecting all these guys based on their like height and weight, but that doesn't really matter. Like, wasn't it Gibbs for the Lions? They're like, oh, yeah, he's not going to be there. And they get him. They know he fits the mold. Some of the guys, like, they know. Like, I thought Tyler Warren would be a better tight end. Michigan's who was it? I'm trying to think. The Bears traded up instead, didn't take him, and you let him fall. So like, is that going to be a bad choice to get a guy from Michigan that wins a national championship, or a guy from Penn State that plays like wildcat / tight end / running back / fullback? I mean, what, you have injury type things, but he came back and played. I'm pretty sure he did against Ohio State, maybe. No, he didn't play against Ohio State either. So that's another one where, like, if you have Loveland out for the Ohio State game and Johnson out, but Loveland came back and was like trying to play. I don't know if he played in the Alabama game though either. Bears though thought, all right, we're going to take a hit on him instead of Warren, but I could be wrong. I would love to see him. I love Michigan guys doing well. But I really thought Tyler Warren would go higher and be the first tight end / flex type guy out there. I try to compare it to like, he's more of like, I don't even want to say he's more like a Taysom Hill. Well, maybe he is. I don't know. And instead of like a true tight end like Loveland. So you never know. It has to fit the scheme. Like you draft a guy like Warren, you never put him in anything. You have him make him play traditional NFL tight end. He might stink. Like that's because not what he's been playing, right? Like that's going to be a total it's kind of like when you draft a guy for tight end and then you're throwing him passes all the time and it's like he had caught 5 balls in college. Like at least Loveland played more of like a wide receiver tight end because Michigan needed help catching balls, right? So going with that direction, you know what you're going to get. You can always like get caught up on blocking or like they can position you in motion and things like that to give you better lanes to block. Like there are ways coach can scheme it up to help you out. So it's kind of who's going to draft you is what I'm thinking of as I'm stumbling here. You got to kind of find a coach that's willing to put you in the best position. And unfortunately, a lot of coaching staffs in the NFL absolutely stink. Right? If we're being honest. There's a reason why some guys, like that's why I always cracked up when Nick Saban was like talking about how his NFL like strategies were. They're like, you didn't work, buddy. You didn't have a good NFL career. What are you talking about? They ran you out of town. Like you went back to college. Why don't you talk more about like the guys you're recruiting in college? To me, that's better like use of your talent than telling me why you weren't drafting these guys. Because then I'm thinking, oh, maybe he should be drafted here. If Nick Saban doesn't think they should draft him, maybe they should. His Dolphins team wasn't that good, right? So that's why I wish they would mix it up. Like you have a college crew doing it, then you have like Mel Kiper and his like crew they're just guessing, right? And then they like go back through and show Mel Kiper's 5 hits in like 30 years. Like remember when he was right about these 5 guys? Like what about all the guys he was wrong on? I guarantee you he's wrong on more guys than what he's right on. Just based on the sheer numbers. Otherwise, and if an NFL team would have hired him away from ESPN a long time ago, right? And he'd be in the NFL Hall of Fame as like a GM, other than just some guy that's just on ESPN that people just know because of what he does a draft. So, I don't know. Any players that stood out to you that you want to talk about?
There really wasn't a particular player that stood out, but I thought overall for a team that typically has highs and lows, I thought the Giants had a pretty good draft with picking up Scatterbo, with jumping back in and getting Dart. I think like they're looking the part of a team trying to build, and for the recent that they haven't had a lot of success, I thought that they got some decent pieces that could possibly help them.
Well, you've been high on Dart, and the fact that they talked about how much better prepared they thought he was than Sanders, I think that really threw a wrench in like the second day plans, right? Did they take him in the first day or second day? I don't know if it was. I can't remember now. When you watch the whole thing, dude, then you're like not remembering. But I knew it was either first or second round, I think. So them taking him when everyone thought that they were going to take Sanders, because they're like, oh, finally they're moving up to take Sanders. That's why I think it was the first round. Because then everyone was like, oh, wait a second. Now which team does need a quarterback? Steelers? And every time the Steelers came up, they're like drafted some random guy from the Big Ten. And everyone's like, what are they doing? Because even like they did the post, ESPN's like, hey, here's our draft grades. We would grade the Steelers higher, but they need a QB, and they didn't really get one. I don't know what the hell they're doing. It's like honestly, they waited and got a guy that I was surprised, honestly, was in the top 10 of QBs out there. So I thought, oh my gosh, like that's going to be a surprise. They have to come out there and really get someone maybe from the UFL, or if they don't get Aaron Rodgers, I don't even know if it's going to be a tanking year. I was trying to tell everyone that I talked to that asked about the draft and the Steelers that, hey, maybe they're just tanking for Arch Manning. And I had someone tell me that they heard a conspiracy that the Cowboys already have Arch Manning's rights locked up. So the Cowboys are going to actually automatically get him next year. And I said, hey, how did they do that? And the guy's like, I don't know, but that's what it is. So remember this conversation. So next year when you see me, I can say I told you so. I was like, okay. The Cowboys are bad, but they're not like historic levels. Do you remember the last time the Cowboys had like the number one overall pick? Because I don't.
No.
I was the same with the Steelers. Like this would be like if it's the Steelers and Cowboys fighting it out for the number one pick, that's when you know it's like a hilarious, like bizarro world. Because their franchises run, like, they're not awfully run, but they're run consistent enough that they're never, like, the worst. Right? It's a special extra level of bad, like the Browns, where you have to have, like, a run of number one picks. So, could we be wrong? That's why I think Aaron Rodgers is, like, the perfect disaster. He comes in, and then next year you can, like, say, hey, we did really bad with Aaron Rodgers, and that's why that attitude doesn't fly. And then you can sit back and reset your rosters. Boom, boom, boom. Right? And then go forward and say, hey, this is it. Here we go. And then that's the end of it, right? And you have a team that's built on winning. Like it's almost like what I almost said Redskins, like the Commanders did. Right? Where they were like, we're starting fresh. And they had him, Dan Quinn's the coach now?
Yeah.
That, a lot of people, I mean, I don't think he was like considered one of the top coaches available. Right? Because he was good with the Falcons, though.
He was good there. But I think, like, he took over after... Oh, I can't think of the guy's name now. White hair. I'm drawing a blank now, but like the other coach had built up and then just handed the keys off to Quinn. And because he was a more defensive focused coach, I thought that it was a perfect storm for them to take Daniel, because they brought in Kingsbury, who was running more of a open style system that just mirrored what Jaden Daniels ran with Kelly at LSU.
Well, see, that's what you have to have, a coach that's able to put in that scheme, right?
Well, yeah, and like we've talked before, the NFL doesn't necessarily cater as much, which I think, to Kuiper's point of the NFL whiffing on quarterback prospects, I think he's not wrong in that analysis, but I think it's at the NFL, the changes happens so much slower. Like you look at the high school level, obviously you have the most wide open variance because you're restricted by the kids that are in your school. So you have to be creative with how you solve problems. At the college level, it's almost similar that there are certain teams that you're playing every year that they're going to have more resources, more funding, better players, whatever. You got to find a way to scheme around it. At the NFL, like, you're all picking from the best of the best. So, like, in theory, there's no reason why, talent-wise, you're not as competitive as the other teams in your conference.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing where I think a lot of franchises, when they recycle a coach and they're like, this time it's going to work. Like McCarthy, great with the Packers. I think when you hit a run where you're like consistently winning, then the Cowboys are scared, like, we could be worse, right? It's not like cutting edge stuff where they're like winning. You almost have to have someone break the mold first, like the Eagles, where then they bring in another guy that can build off that. And then they were almost going to fire Sirianni, or however he's pronounced his name, right? After they tanked that 1 year. Then they bring in Saquon, and that solves a lot of their problems. Like, the Giants basically gifted them a Super Bowl. And so that's why maybe you're right with the Giants picks. Huh? Like, you don't know. Maybe they're onto something. They know great talent other than Daniel Jones. And if he set them back, can you come back from that? So,
awesome.
I mean, Daniel Jones was another one where it's like, hey, he has all the measurables. It's like he hasn't won or played well. You can't just be the guy that's like, the NFL is like the one thing where, and I guess maybe the NBA, I think they're like the only two sports where, and it's really only the quarterback, right? I mean, unless the guy's like a ridiculous like athlete that just stinks on the field, but I don't think anytime like a guy's like that athletic, they're putting up production wherever they are. Sometimes the knock is like, well, the competition's not that good. Like we were arguing about Shedeur Sanders earlier. But with like the NBA, I think
that was a perfect storm to argue for Eli Manning, because when you look at the Eagles, Washington, and Dallas during that run where they were making the Super Bowl, like those teams were drafted in the top 5.
And they didn't even, dude, have a good record those years they won the Super Bowl. They honestly just got hot and lucky at the same time.
Wild card eligible.
So that's where I think here you're looking at players and trying to find guys that can turn like your team around. But like for quarterbacks, it seems like they go out, they throw that out, and they're kind of just like, this guy's big, bro. Did you see how strong he is? And they're like in awe with it. And they're like, oh my gosh, he looks exactly like that model from the TV. We got to draft him. And it's like, was he hitting? No, his accuracy is 42%. But he looks just like Troy Aikman. I got to draft him. It's like the only position in the NFL where they do that, right? Any other position, it's like, hey, this guy looks like Barry Sanders. Like, he'll never be Barry Sanders, bro. There's no way. Quarterbacks, it's like he just looks like him, and they're like, that could be our guy. And the NBA is the only other sport where they do that. It's like, hey, this guy's 6'11", and he plays point guard. Or like, good gosh, Dolly, I guess he's going to be the greatest. It's like, have you heard of him? Like, no. Where's this guy from? We found him. We found him overseas. We're bringing him in. Buy his jersey. That's like what the NFL is with quarterbacks. Have you heard of this guy? No, but he's the number one pick. You haven't watched him in college because, like Josh Allen, like he played at a lower level, but it's all right because he's going to be great. Just sit back and watch. He has all the measurables, Matt. He checks all the boxes. That's where, like, Hurts, every commercial he's in now, I feel bad for him because it's like, hey, you're a loser, bro. They benched you during that national championship game. Like, straight loser. You're barely winning now. Win the Super Bowl ring? Did you prove him wrong? Nah, you didn't. We didn't prove him wrong. He just got lucky. Mahomes really tripped up that game. So enjoy it, Hurts. Like, every time I see, like, an ad, it's almost like, are they giving him more ammo? Or they're just, like, waiting for him to fail? Like, I don't understand it. Like, they don't do that to any other quarterback other than Hurts. Like, they try, like, immediately after, they, like, blamed it on the butt push thing. No, we got to get that out of the game. That's the only way the Eagles are winning right now. If he didn't have that extra first down, they never would have won the Super Bowl. I don't even know if they were using the Super Bowl. But that's kind of like the talking points that they put out there. But I'm just tired of some of the NFL teams. Like, I don't know how some people are fans. Like, right now, under certain ownership, like the Panthers I brought up, we had the same mascot in high school as the Carolina Panthers. So, like, I always pulled for them, like when Jake Delhomme was there. And now, Steve Smith, like, they had a great team. Steve Smith's off-the-field issues happening right now are nowhere near the dysfunction that the Panthers organization has. So the fact that people are like, hey, think the Panthers are going to be good? It's like, nah. You know they're not. You can see it from the top down. It's just like any other company. Like, whoa, Kmart's going out of business? It's like, where have you been? Have you been in a Kmart? Like, no, I don't shop there. I just see them. That's like what the Panthers are like right now. Oh, you cheering for the Panthers? Like, no, I just see them on TV and they're bad. I know better. Like, I drive by the Kmart. I don't go in. So that's the analogy, dude. You got to have a team that knows how to win and picks draft picks that takes it to that next level. And some of the ones, like today with like the cell phones and the TV and the NFL like network, I know I have a lot of friends that are like diehard fans of teams that they grew up with. And it's like, why are you throwing money buying like 30 jerseys supporting that team? Like, why? They're bad. There's no reason. You could do other things other than cheer for the Browns. Like, look at how bad their draft was messed up. They could have called in and got Shedeur Sanders and never drafted Dylan Gabriel. But instead, now they got two guys. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. Everyone knows it's not going to work. That's probably why the front office looked so bad in that video. They were like, man, we just screwed up our entire draft. Awful. Or like, I hate the guys too that are like, did you see my mock draft? Mock draft 198 this year. Did you see that one? The first 100 and whatever it was, 180, they were wrong. But that one, I almost got right. Got like 20% of the picks right. It's a bomb. Like, no one cares. No one cares what your picks were. Did you have Shedeur Sanders fall into pick 100 or something? No, you didn't. Get out of here. Get out of here with your mock drafts. Like, I'm surprised people are still clicking on that stuff, to be honest. There must be a lot of boomers out there reading Mel Kiper articles, because I don't read any of his stuff. You just watch the games yourself. Like a huddle. Like, they have it. I don't know if you run into this problem, although I can never get ESPN highlights to work on my phone. Like, they'll be like, hey, here's a highlight of the game. Watch this game-winning shot. And it's like still photos. Like, why, ESPN? I know to just go to Twitter and never click on your website again. That's like what you're training me to do. So, that's my draft analysis. I watched it. I don't know why it took so long. Because it started, on Saturday? Has it always gone to like 7 p.m.?
Yeah.
Because that's forever. Next year it's in Pittsburgh. Are you going?
I might.
You might. Because because everyone knows I'm a Packers owner now. People are asking me like, why didn't you go this year? It's like, guys, I've never been to Lambeau Field. You think I just, as an owner, I just randomly am there half the year? Like, oh yeah, I'm at Lambeau Field all the time. I'm just there as an owner. Like, they fly me personally in. Like, you at the draft, dude. Like, no, I'm not at the draft. I didn't go up. I didn't make plans to go up there just for the draft. And I saw people were all dressed up, all cold, and I thought that's actually probably better than having it like outside in Miami where you're like sweating the entire time, and you know you're drinking beer, and it's like anyone that's drinking, they know that the colder weather is 100% better for drinking. Because when you're in the hot and you're like getting dehydrated, and then you're like drinking and half drinking like Gatorade or something so you don't die, it's not a fun time. Right? You would agree with me?
Yes.
So Pittsburgh, that could be the draft. Although I possibly could be running the Pittsburgh Marathon next year, so I don't know how those dates are going to line up. Because it would be a horrible experience if I go to the draft and then I run the Pittsburgh Marathon like the same Saturday. I don't think they would do both events the same weekend. But I feel like that'd be a horrible time as a hungover 26-mile run or whatever it is. So you're dying. But I don't know. Any other non-NFL things you want to talk about this week?
No, because my weekend was the draft. So I thought overall everyone got the player that they needed to be successful, and it's all on the owners. They screw it up.
And that's where it comes down to coaching too. So I was looking to see if Michigan's kicker didn't go drafted. He came back. Because I was wondering did a kicker get drafted this year? I don't even remember. Oh no, I do see one from the Patriots.
Yeah.
Because I was looking to see too, because some of those. The last thing I'm going to bring up, I saw a scatter plot, right, of previous drafts that they were pulling data. I don't know if it was like a college thing where they were showing people that transferred from their original school how often they got drafted in the early rounds. It was like virtually none. And then this year, like they added like 2 transfers. And Cam Ward is the first guy, I think, ever taken in the first round that had transferred twice in history. So keep that in mind as you're watching, or your team, like your college team's getting a guy that's already transferred 2 times. The odds of that happening is slim. Because Jaden Daniels last year transferred once, I think, from Arizona State to LSU. So he would have been one of the hot. He would have been like the first. He wasn't number 1, was he? I don't remember when he was even drafted. Wasn't he drafted Caleb Williams was number 1, right?
Yeah.
He also didn't Caleb Williams also transfer from Oklahoma to USC?
Yeah.
I can't remember if that was a transfer or if he just committed. But that would be so like this year, the first time guys have been starting to transfer 2 times. And again, the NFL was complaining that the talent wasn't as deep this year because guys are going back to the pros. But I think guys would, if you're drafted in the late rounds with NIL now, your contract's not like really guaranteed, right? You get cut in spring training camp, you're done. Your hope is to like get asked to a practice squad, which isn't a lot of money compared to like if you're getting, I don't think it's $1 million, right? They don't just pay everyone $1 million. So like you could be making more in college than you would if you get cut. Because my other guy, Donovan Edwards, surprised he didn't get drafted. I don't know. I think we talked about it earlier. I could be losing it. I don't know what I talk about off the show and on the show anymore. So he could have came out last year, didn't, came back for NIL. The NIL might have been worth it for him. Because what if he came out last year early and didn't get drafted? We'll never know. Right? They tell you what your projection is. Like, oh, this guy's a 3rd-round guy. Like, day 3 rolls around and you're waiting. And the entire time you have to be thinking, oh my gosh, I should have went back to college. And so I think that's going to be the theme for me going forward out of this draft into next year. College is eventually going to catch up with because we're still post-COVID. People play for 28 years and transfer 2 times. That has to end now, right? This would be the last year. When did COVID rules end? 2021?
Yeah.
This is year 4. So maybe we have one more year of the insanity. Because if someone red-shirted after that, whatever, didn't count year. But we have to be coming to a close on that. So now I think we'll start to see players settle in, and it's just going to come down to NIL and the wild, wild west of transfers, if it's going to affect the draft or not. But hopefully your team had a great draft, and of course, if you're listening, you know they did. Don't listen to me be a naysayer. Enjoy the off season, and if there's anything you want us to talk about, anything else you want to talk about, Matt, for the final bell?
Yeah, we're good.
All right, so yeah, anything you want us to bring up? We're going to be starting to break down some more stuff. Got the UFL going on, NHL and NBA playoffs, getting some more off-season stuff. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.